I know how you feel. The party ended 2 hours ago. You're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and your brain decides this is the perfect moment to replay every single thing you said tonight. That joke that landed weird, the pause before you answered, the way they looked at you when you said that one thing. Your body is exhausted, but your brain just opened a new tab. If that hit a little too close to home, you need to hear these 5 patterns that psychology has actually discovered about people like you, because what you've been told your whole life is completely wrong. This is not a personality flaw. This is not you being dramatic. This is your brain doing something that most people's brains simply cannot do. And by the time we get to pattern number 5, you're going to understand yourself in a way nobody ever bothered to explain. Let's get into number 1. Your brain filed a police report. Picture this. You're walking out of a dinner with friends. Everyone else is thinking about where to get dessert, but you just replayed the moment you said, "I'm doing well," instead of "I'm doing good." And now you're spiraling, wondering if that made you sound weirdly formal. Psychologists call this post-event processing, studied in depth by researchers David Clark and Adrian Wells at Oxford University. What they found is that people who replay conversations aren't doing it randomly or dramatically. Their brains are running what's basically a social security scan, combing through the interaction for anything that might have damaged a connection, anything that might need repairing. Think of it like a smoke detector that's a little too sensitive. It's not broken, it's just doing its job with a lot of enthusiasm, even when you're just making toast. The thing is, that same sensitivity is what makes you genuinely good at reading people and caring about them. Your brain just hasn't learned that not every conversation needs a full forensic investigation afterward. And that leads us straight into the second pattern, because the way your brain stores these moments is genuinely fascinating. Number 2. Why you remember that cringe moment from 2019. Okay, here's a scenario you will absolutely recognize. It's 2 a.m. A conversation from 3 weeks ago is now playing in your head with full audio, accurate subtitles, and cinematic lighting. You remember exactly what they said, how they paused, and what their left eyebrow did. Meanwhile, you have zero memory of where you put your phone. It's been missing for 4 hours, but you don't know that it's in your hand. Here's why that happens, and it's actually kind of wild. Neuroscientists at Stanford found that when a memory has an emotional charge, especially a social one, it gets processed through the amygdala. Think of the amygdala as your brain's overzealous personal assistant. Anything it decides is important gets stamped with a big red priority label and stored at the very top of the filing cabinet. Your phone, it gets filed under random stuff. That slightly awkward pause in a conversation, it gets filed under urgent, review immediately, especially at 2 a.m. The reason your brain keeps returning to that memory isn't that you're stuck. It's that your brain genuinely believes one more review will finally crack the case. It's trying to help, but it just has absolutely no idea when to clock out. And now that you understand why your brain stores these moments the way it does, the third pattern is going to explain what it does with them next. Number 3, the invisible apology letter. Okay, this pattern hit me hard when I first read the research. Let's say a friend texted you something a little vulnerable and you responded with a joke because you panicked, and it didn't quite land. They replied with a simple haha and 2 words. Now, before you know it, it's midnight, and you've mentally written, revised, and rehearsed an entire apology just for a 2-word reply that they already forgot about. Dr. Susan Nolan-Hoeksema at Yale University, one of the most respected researchers on repetitive thinking, found something that reframes all of this completely. People who overthink social interactions consistently score higher on empathy measures than those who don't. The mental drafting, the replaying, and the reconstructing of how someone else might have felt, that's not anxiety performing as overthinking. That's care performing as overthinking. Your brain is running quality control on your relationships because your relationships genuinely matter to you. And don't forget about this, because this specific trait will be the key to everything we're discussing, and we'll be coming back to it later. The frustrating part, as her research also shows, is that this loop rarely delivers a clean conclusion. It just restarts. Because the only way to actually know how someone felt is to ask them, and your brain at midnight is not great at remembering that. However, this is about to get a lot more interesting with the next pattern. Number 4. What your brain is doing when you stare at the ceiling. You know that thing where you're in the shower doing nothing productive, and the perfect response to an argument from 2 weeks ago just arrives, fully formed and ready to go? Where was that genius energy during the actual conversation? Nowhere, but now, surrounded by shampoo fumes, your brain is basically a philosopher. And that's not a coincidence. That's your default mode network doing its thing. Scientists at Harvard gave it that name, and yes, it does sound like a setting on a router, but the default mode network is just your brain's background app. It runs when you're not focused on anything specific, in the shower, on a walk, staring out a window. And here's the part that will genuinely surprise you. That so-called idle mode is actually when your brain handles some of its most complex work. Self-reflection, understanding other people's emotions, making sense of social situations. All of that happens quietly in the background while you think you're doing absolutely nothing. A study from the journal Neuroimage published in 2021 found that people who frequently replay and reflect on social interactions show stronger activity in exactly this network. So that 3 a.m. conversation replaying in your brain is not a glitch, it's a feature, but just one with absolutely terrible timing. Think of it like your phone getting weirdly warm when the screen is off. That's not a malfunction, that's a background update running, and your brain is doing the same thing. It looks like it's off, but it's very much not off. You're not overthinking, you're deep processing. And that's a genuinely important difference, even if it's hard to appreciate at 3 a.m. while analyzing a thumbs up emoji. Which brings us to the final pattern. And this is the one I really want you to sit with. Number 5. You replay conversations because you actually care. Here's the simplest and most honest version of everything we've discovered. The reason you replay conversations after they end is not because something is broken in you. It's because you care whether you were kind. You care whether you were fair. You care how the other person felt when they walked away, just like we learned in Pattern 3. A study from the University of Michigan found that people who reflect on their social interactions are rated by the people around them as more trustworthy and more genuinely present over time. Not because they say the perfect thing in the moment, but because they actually process what happened and adjust. They grow from interactions instead of just moving through them. The overthinking isn't the enemy. The only thing worth addressing is where it tips into loops that don't serve you. Because replaying something 15 times after you've already understood it is not reflection anymore. That's just your brain being a little dramatic. So the next time your brain cues up the 2 a.m. replay, try acknowledging it instead of fighting with it. Something like, okay, I heard you, we'll do better next time. Because your brain is not punishing you. It's just trying, in its chaotic, sleepless, overthinking way, to love the people around you a little better. And here's what all of this adds up to. Overthinking conversations is not a flaw to fix. It's a signal worth understanding. It means you take connections seriously. It means you think about impact. And yeah, sometimes it means you're awake at 2 a.m. analyzing a ha-ha reply, but seriously, you're not broken at all. You're someone who actually thinks about the effect you have on other people. And in a world that moves very fast and cares very little, that matters a lot. Now, if you recognized yourself in this video, hit like and subscribe, because every day we go deeper into the psychology behind the way you think. Join us as we continue to uncover the hidden patterns in minds like yours, making the journey of self-discovery more fascinating with every video.